Well, there we go. The Washington Commanders just traded for quarterback Carson Wentz from the Colts. Ooh-wee, that is crazy. That just came out of nowhere. I'm recording my video that's been running for 30 minutes long, and I'm gonna probably upload that video immediately after I'm done editing and upload this video about Carson Wentz. But like, this just came out of nowhere. Literally saw the tweet come out from Schefter. I had to stop what I was doing with the other video and come record this one again. Y'all will get that video soon after this one. But man, what just happened? We apparently traded for Carson Wentz. What just happened? So we missed out on Russell Wilson. It looks like Deshaun Watson's situation is taking too long to figure out. Not gonna get Kyler Murray. Aaron Rodgers stayed with Green Bay. So now we just went and got Carson Wentz. But before we dive into my opinion and everything and his stats and how bad this could end up going, make sure y'all subscribe to the channel, hit the bell next to the subscription button so you get a notification immediately and every time I release an informative and opinionated video just like this one, heavily opinionated. Also, make sure you check out the rest of the content. Again, I'm literally currently recording the video talking about Bobby Wagner and all of that situation and why we should go sign him and all of the other updates around the NFL concerning the Washington Commanders and why we failed to get Russell Wilson. But this is breaking news. This is a priority, so I had to go and get this out. But again, make sure y'all subscribe, man. Stay updated on all Washington Commanders content that comes up. I'm coming with live streams. I'm coming with exclusive film sessions from our channel members and all of that. So stay tuned for all of that. And without further ado, let's get it. Well, first of all, let me go ahead and get this out the way. The main thing to me is that trading for Carson Wentz better not have any effect on who we take in the draft at quarterback. Like, if you planned on taking Malik Willis, Kenny Pickett, Matt Corral, any of those guys, if you really loved any of those guys, there's no way trading for Carson Wentz with 3 first-round picks stops you from still getting that guy. If you love Malik Willis at pick 11, or were even willing to trade up from 11 to get Malik Willis, you still go and get Malik Willis even though you just traded for Carson Wentz. And that's a really interesting situation because I prefer, first of all, I felt like Jameis Winston was just a more smooth and better quarterback overall than Carson Wentz last year, but also he was a free agent, so you wouldn't have to trade 2 third-round picks to get him. So I felt like Jameis Winston made a lot more sense, even if you take away the fact that we have to trade for Carson Wentz and you don't have to give up picks to get Jameis Winston. I think even if you just isolate them, I feel like Jameis Winston before the injury just played better than Carson Wentz. Now, at times, Carson Wentz played like an elite quarterback last season, to be completely honest. At his best, out of all of the quarterbacks that were available, other than Deshaun Watson, Russell Wilson, Aaron Rodgers, we're talking about all of the other tier guys: Jameis Winston, Marcus Mariota, Mitchell Trubisky, Carson Wentz, of course, Jimmy Garoppolo. Out of all of those guys, when he was at his best, Carson Wentz was easily the best quarterback out of that entire group. But how often are you gonna get that? First of all, the injury proneness, and then, I mean, the folds. I mean, he had some games where it was like, how is he even in the NFL? The Colts had to beat the worst team in the NFL, the team that has the current first overall pick in the draft. They had to beat them the last game of the season to make it into the playoffs. It didn't matter if any other team won. They didn't need some crazy scenario like, if this team wins, even if the Colts win, they don't make it. No, it was literally beat the Jaguars and you make the playoffs. That simple. Deal done. And Carson Wentz went out there and had one of his worst games of his life against one of the worst teams in the NFL, and when the lights were its brightest. Like, that's just several red flags right there to me. And then another red flag is the Colts just traded first-round picks to get Carson Wentz, had him for a year, and traded him away for 2 third-round picks. I mean, that flip in value is just crazy. That was a complete diminishing value right there. That's worse than when you buy a car and first take it off the lot. I mean, they was just like, bruh, somebody please take Carson Wentz from us, please, even if it's just for 2 third-round picks. I know we spent first-round picks to get him, but just anything, please get him off our roster. That should tell you everything you need to know, even the way the GM spoke about him just a couple of weeks ago. Like, that is so many red flags around Carson Wentz. I'm scared. And there's no way this can be real because apparently he's a $28 million cap hit 2022, $26 million cap hit 2023, and a $27 million cap hit 2024. There's no way this is reality right now. I'm gonna have to see him in a burgundy and gold jersey shaking hands with Ron Rivera before. I'm just in shock. I just can't believe this is a real thing. Again, my main thing is, I don't believe in Carson Wentz, and he's a crazy cap hit. First of all, this hurts our chances of going to be buyers in free agency. Like, does this stop us from getting Bobby Wagner? Does this stop us from potentially getting a guy like Tyrann Mathieu? Any of these guys that are available? Allen Robinson? Does this stop us from extending Terry McLaurin to big money? Does this stop us from re-signing J.D. McKissick and all of these free agents that we want to bring back, like Cornelius Lucas and Cam Sims? Does this make it harder to restructure Landon Collins? All of these questions, and then we're dealing with all of this because we just went and got Carson Wentz. Not like we went and got Russell Wilson or Deshaun Watson. We're going through all of these problems with Carson Wentz. And again, my main thing is this better not stop us from getting a top quarterback in the draft, even though I have a bad feeling that it will, especially again with the cap space that he's taking up. So we traded multiple picks, even though they're not first rounders, but we traded multiple picks to eat up $20 million worth of cap space this year for Carson Wentz. I hope something goes down before this trade is made official next week to where this just falls through and this just ends up not happening. I really hope somebody can hurry up and interfere somehow. But yeah, I definitely feel like this is getting in the way of us. Like, it seems like Malik Willis, Matt Corral, any of these guys are completely off the table at this point. Now we might as well start mocking corners and receivers to us in the draft now, or maybe even linebacker. But it's definitely looking like a top receiver or a top corner in the draft. We're probably just going to stay at 11. We may even trade back, but trading up for a top quarterback in the draft looks like it's pretty much dead at this point, which is my biggest problem with everything. But at the end of the day, I mean, technically he is an upgrade over Taylor Heineke. He's an upgrade over anything we currently have. But again, I do feel like this will stop us from drafting a quarterback, but it doesn't necessarily. You can still probably take a quarterback at 11 because they'll be on a rookie deal, won't cost you much cap space, so who knows. And it looks like we could potentially get out of his contract after this season. So even though he's going to eat up $28 million this season, it looks like for 2023 and 2024, if we don't want him, we can just get out of it for no dead cap. So we'll see. If this Carson Wentz move shows that they don't plan on taking a quarterback at the top of the draft, this pretty much just shows that Washington really hates this quarterback class. I mean, the fact that we had interest in guys like Jameis Winston, Mitchell Trubisky, really did all we could to get Russell Wilson. That just pretty much shows that the Washington Commanders and a lot of teams around the NFL really hate this quarterback class. So now what is it? Is it Treylon Burks at 11? Garrett Wilson? Chris Olave, one of those guys at 11? Sauce Gardner? I mean, what is really going on? I mean, I'm just really giving my live feelings right now. Like, I mean, so much has happened. Aaron Rodgers back to the Packers, Russell Wilson traded to the Broncos, Bobby Wagner released. Now this, like, it's a lot going on, and we haven't even hit free agency, which starts officially Monday. I mean, at the end of the day, like I said, my main problem with it is this may stop us from taking a top quarterback in the draft, and I really, really want Malik Willis. And also, to trade 2/3 to take on $28 million worth of cap space is crazy in itself. So it definitely looks like we're going best player available, but I still really hope it's quarterback. And this is also really interesting because, like, did we pull the trigger on Carson Wentz because he's the only quarterback willing to come here? I mean, it keeps looking like quarterbacks don't want to come to DC. And I think it's more so Dan Snyder than anything else than like the situation. Because remember, we had a top 5 offensive line when healthy last season. We have pretty good weapons. I mean, when you look at it for real, it's really Terry McLaurin and then some guys in the receiving room as of right now. But I like our tight ends. I like John Bates and Logan Thomas. I like our running back group as a whole if you bring back J.D. McKissick. And this is a really deep receiver draft, so you can get another playmaker receiver even second round or later. But it seems like quarterbacks don't necessarily feel that way about us. But maybe Carson Wentz was the only one, and once Washington, specifically Rivera, heard that Carson Wentz probably said, like, hey, I would actually play quarterback for the Washington Commanders, we probably just pulled the trigger immediately. Like, we got to do what we got to do to get him. Finally, a quarterback that wants to play for us, well, it's time to pull the trigger. But yeah, this is really interesting. First of all, Carson Wentz will be the first Washington Commanders quarterback ever. So just to let you know that, let's go ahead and get that out the way. The Washington Commanders era that may stick around for the remainder of our lives. Our first quarterback will be Carson Wentz. That's crazy in itself. And I mean, honestly, when I look at trading for a quarterback or acquiring a quarterback from another team via free agency, wherever, I like to pay attention to what that quarterback looked like on the other team. And specifically, like, compare that team to what our team has if you take away quarterbacks. So, like, what are we expected to do with Carson Wentz that the Colts couldn't? Not necessarily saying that if you take away quarterback, the Colts are light years better than us, but they have a really good O-line, even though statistically it wasn't as good as ours last year. They had a really good running game, which was way better than ours last year. They had a strong defense. So you can say we have that, and so what's our ceiling? Losing to the Jaguars the last game of the season in the play-in to make it to the playoffs? Is that Carson Wentz's ceiling? Or do we expect him to come here and somehow outdo what he did for the Colts? Do we feel like we're a better team outside of quarterback than the Colts and we can take Carson Wentz further than the Colts did? I don't know. So that's the way I like to look at it. Is this even worth it? Because what is our real ceiling with Carson Wentz? Again, at times he played like an elite quarterback, but it's so rare. What do we do with this? And I just feel so sorry for Terry McLaurin. I mean, now Carson Wentz, he's had to go through Alex Smith, Dwayne Haskins, Colt McCoy, Case Keenum, Kyle Allen, Taylor Heinicke, Garrett Gilbert. Man, Terry McLaurin deserves better, bro. Please. I don't care what you think about Carson Wentz. Please still, if you planned on taking a top quarterback in the draft, you still go and get that guy, even if that means trading up. Do not let Carson Wentz stop any of that, but again, I'm afraid that it will. But again, at the end of the day, he's an upgrade over really anything we've had for years, definitely over Taylor Heinicke. At least he can hit receivers open down the field, so maybe Terry McLaurin will actually catch some deep balls this year and have put up some better stats. But I'm still really afraid. My main thing with Carson Wentz is how much money he's taking up. It's not necessarily Carson Wentz himself, but even though, again, what is the ceiling that you have with Carson Wentz comparing the Colts roster to our roster? But even just beyond his production, the fact that he's eating up $28 million and potentially stopping us from drafting the top quarterback is my biggest problem with him. And I think it's also really interesting because for some of y'all that really hate this quarterback class, I'm surprised y'all wouldn't like this Carson Wentz situation, because Carson Wentz is probably one of the very few quarterbacks that we could have gotten this offseason, outside of the top guys, of course, that could stop us from taking a quarterback this year and just waiting to get one next year. And I know there are a lot of guys that say, forget Willis, forget Pickett, forget this whole quarterback class, get a short-term quarterback this year and then draft CJ Stroud or Bryce Young next year, or somebody else from the 2023 quarterback class, which may end up happening. It looks like maybe Carson Wentz, you give him a year, see what happens. Again, like I said, he has an out in his contract. He has no guaranteed money 2023 and beyond. So we have to eat this $28 million cap hit this year. But then next year, we can release him for free, no dead cap at all. So you give Carson Wentz an opportunity this year. If he pulls what he pulled for the Colts last year, then you draft a quarterback. Then you draft for Bryce Young and CJ Stroud potentially. But the problem is, Carson Wentz isn't that terrible to where we're going to have a high draft pick. So with us having the 11th pick right now in a bad quarterback class where people feel like quarterbacks will fall, you know how much more value we would have to give up to trade up to get CJ Stroud or Bryce Young compared to what we would have to give up to get Malik Willis? You can probably even sit at 11 to get Malik Willis. Whereas this next draft with Carson Wentz, we may end up with like the 20th pick in the draft, like 9 spots behind where we currently are. And then you're going to have to trade all the way up to like 1 or 2 to get one of those top guys. So I just don't think that's a realistic scenario, even though I feel like that's how some people are going to view it. Oh, and an update. They got 2 third-rounders from us, but one of the third-rounders can convert to a second based on last year's incentives. So that's interesting. But I could definitely see a scenario where now that we got Carson Wentz, with your first pick, you take best player available, more than likely corner or receiver, and then you probably get like a Desmond Ridder in the second. I can see that playing out. But man, like I said, my main thing is the $28 million, bro. We only have $33 million worth of cap space. Now we're down to 5, so we won't be buyers in free agency. I was all hyped about potentially getting Bobby Wagner. I was all hyped about getting all of these guys. Now it looks like that just may be a very unrealistic possibility. But then again, cap space is a myth. You can always restructure contracts, and if you really, really want Bobby Wagner, you can still probably get him. And Carson Wentz really does look like Prince Henry. That's crazy. Oh, actually, there's a really big update. So officially, the Colts get a 2022 third round pick, a 2023 third round pick that can become a second if Carson Wentz plays 70% of the games, and also our 2022 second round pick. But we get Carson Wentz and the Colts 2022 second round pick. So we basically swapped second round picks and sent them 2 thirds, and one of those thirds could become a second if Carson Wentz plays 70% of the plays. And I know the Colts are happy because they just got rid of Carson Wentz, which saves them $28 million worth of cap space. Now they have over $70 million of cap space, which is the most in the NFL entering free agency. So now they're about to super build up, and once they get a quarterback, that team's going to be crazy because I'm pretty sure they're going to be big buyers in free agency, which I wanted us to be, but I guess. Yep, here we go. ESPN ESPN stats and info, Carson Wentz had an NFL low, the lowest in the NFL, 13 total QBR over the final 2 weeks of the season, week 17 through 18, with opportunities to clinch a playoff berth in both games for the Colts. Since his debut in 2016, Carson Wentz is 16-9 against NFC East teams and 28-31-1 against all others. Well, at least he's going to the division where he wins most of his games. Carson Wentz threw for 3,500 yards on 63% passing last year with 27 touchdowns and only 7 interceptions. So the stats do look good if you're looking at just the stats, but when you look at that cap space and you look at how he folded those last 2 weeks of the season, I'm scared. Carson Wentz was also sacked more than 30 times last year with a 5.8% rate. And again, the fact that the Colts gave up on him after just trading first round picks for him just after one season should be all the red flags we should have. That's all we needed. That's all we needed. But yeah, man, definitely get in the comment section. Let me know how y'all feel about this situation. This is crazy. I am scared. I don't know what we're doing. I feel like we just panicked after the Russell Wilson situation, him going to the Broncos and everything. Again, y'all already know how I feel, man. I still want Malik Willis no matter what, but it looks like we're not likely to get him at this point. But we'll see, man. But yeah, man, I appreciate all of my supporters, man. Shouts out to all of my sponsors, especially my Pro Bowl sponsors whose name you see scrolling on the screen right now. But I really appreciate y'all. I'll catch y'all later. I'm out.